What we wanted to do with this piece of research was to substantiate the impression we've all had for many years that there is a lot of scope for improving the energy efficiency of our homes. So we took the data we have on homes that are being marketed for sale. Now, it was more than 300,000 EPCs, a massive sample, very representative of a typical of the homes that are marketed for sale in a normal year. If all of the recommendations that were being made in the EPC were implemented in all of the homes that were that changed hands in a particular year, what were the potential savings that could be realised at that point? Potential savings per home, average across this full 300-odd thousand sample, 1.2 tonnes of carbon per year and £182 a year of savings. And in terms of cost savings, we're talking about £200 million worth of fuel cost savings per year for the homes that change hands in a particular year. So if you had measures in place that each year, and as homes change hands, they were all being upgraded, the cumulative potential improvements are enormous. And for the homes that are improved, we're talking about savings of 22% in both carbon emissions and fuel costs, against the government's general target for the housing stock for 2020 of a 29% improvement. So we're talking about a very substantial contribution to that important target being able to be realised simply by ensuring that the recommendations within an EPC are implemented when a home changes hands. We found fantastic saving potential, and importantly, these are the savings that can be realised from the standard recommendations that exist in the EPC. So we're talking cavity wall insulation, loft insulation, low energy lighting, improvements to insulation on hot water tanks, improving controls on hot water systems. But one of the things that came as really stood out in the results was the importance of improvements to the heating system. More than half of all of the carbon savings and more than half of all of the cost savings, fuel cost savings, came about from improvements to heating systems. And these aren't kind of particularly radical changes to heating systems. They're just sort of replacing very old, very inefficient boilers. That's the majority of the savings were coming from that one recommendation. Some of the things can be done incredibly quickly and are very simple. I mean, for example, our first recommendation is that the recommendations that are carried on the EPC, the improvement measures that are carried on the EPC, are listed on property particulars when a home is being sold. A simple thing, a simple line that says this property could benefit from cavity wall insulation, or this property could benefit from a replacement boiler. Nothing mandatory, nothing required of anybody, but we believe that a measure like that would encourage more vendors to actually implement the measure and would focus buyers on what are the things that they could be doing or should be planning to do when they actually purchase the property. So what we're seeing is that sort of the point at which homes change hands is a very strong point for intervention and a time when people are willing to make improvements to their homes. And if we can just ensure that they're focused on the right improvements that can really save them money and save and reduce emissions, that would be a fantastic achievement. But we need to ensure that they're getting the right information and the right support to make those changes and put in place the right incentives to encourage them to do so. But we're also calling for the government to look at introducing a boiler scrappage scheme, very much modelled on the idea of the car scrappage scheme. There are simply too many old, inefficient boilers that are costing a fortune to run and producing enormous emissions. And we need far more active programme to get those boilers replaced than simply waiting for them to die. The truth of the matter is many of them will carry on for many more years, producing emissions, polluting, costing a fortune to run, in the same way that some old cars will carry on running for many, many years, producing lots of emissions and being kind of an environmental or damaging to our environment. And what we need is to get them off the road, and with these old boilers we need to get them replaced. At a policy level, we cannot continue to spout good intentions about how important the improvements to the existing housing stock are to achieving our carbon reductions, whilst at the same time doing so little to actually implement policies that are going to drive forward improvements in the housing stock in practice. It would be a bit like saying we want all cars to improve their energy efficiency, but then doing absolutely nothing about setting standards or about creating incentives for people to run more energy efficient cars. So what we're saying is that in the report, what we're quantifying in the report, is the sheer scale of the opportunity that we have, and we're making recommendations for policy interventions that can help us to seize that opportunity. But we're now calling on government, and we're calling on the industry in general, to really grasp hold of that opportunity and to actually bring it to realisation rather than just carrying on talking about things.